Good evening. Hope you're having a great week. It is still Wednesday for a few more minutes. Wednesday, April 17th, 11:50 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, local time here in Oregon. I'm on Interstate 84 westbound. I don't know what town I'm near. Making my way across Oregon. Headed to Seattle. So, what I want to talk about in this video is APUs. I'm thinking about a solution to my APU problem. Basically, I need to replace my APU. I'm tired of dumping money into this piece of crap. So there are two things I'm thinking about: either buying another APU like Green APU or Carrier Thermo King ONAD, or building my own like homemade APU system. And I'm about 90% certain I'm going to build my own homemade APU system. And I'll go over the details of that. First of all, somebody has been asking about Landstar's load board. What does it look like? Some people like my driving videos. Some people like load board videos. I'll probably try to do a load board video when I'm looking for a load next week. We'll see. But Landstar's load board sucks right now. That's a reflection of the freight market, not Landstar. Landstar has a ton of people that have been terminating their leases and going and realizing the grass is not greener on the other side. And Landstar right now, they told me this when I was at their class a few weeks ago. They said their highest number, the majority of their leases they're signing right now are 90-day returns. Those are people that are returning within 90 days of terminating their lease. If you return within 90 days, you don't have to go through the requalification process. They basically just turn your account back on and you're good to go. If you stay away for more than 90 days, then you have to go through the entire process of getting requalified and going through orientation and all that stuff. So that tells you that a ton of people don't know what's going on, and they think that the rates, suck at Landstar, and they're going to go get better rates somewhere else. And they go out and realize that the rates are a lot worse at other places, and they are scurrying back to Landstar. So yeah, it's the rates suck on Landstar's load board, but that's that's the market that we're in. Just a second here. I think there's an emergency vehicle. There's some, I don't know if it's a cop or an ambulance or somebody coming up behind me with their lights on. Still can't tell what it is. They're in the left lane. Sheriff. Hope there's not an accident up ahead. So yeah, okay, let's talk about APUs now. So the APU I have, a Carrier, I've had issues with it since I bought the truck. It's a piece of crap. I've probably spent over $40,000 in parts and labor trying to get this piece of junk working. And I've had very few times where it was fully functional. Right now, the air conditioner has not worked for a year and a half. So, what are my options on getting something new? Something to replace this? I could buy a new unit from somebody, Green APU, Carrier, Thermo King, ONAD, or ONOD, or ODAN, or whatever it is. Cummins, the Cummins APU, the Cummins generator, you generally only see those on high-end equipment. Like those super sleepers almost always have ONADs. The Prevost or whatever RVs, those luxury buses that people turn into RVs, almost always have the ONADs. Those are the premium generators. The Cummins, the Cummins APU, the Cummins generator, that's the premium one. So I don't know much about the Cummins one, and it's just too damn expensive for me to bother with. Thermo King and Carrier, I won't consider either one of those. There's no way in hell I'll own another Thermo King or Carrier. Um, and the main reason has to do with their business model. Parts and service is a huge revenue stream for a lot of companies. And because of that, they intentionally design products where you are forced to go to the dealer for parts and service. It is common practice in a lot of industries. Volvo does it, Freightliner does it, Thermo King does it, Carrier does it. The ice cream machine maker for McDonald's does it. It should be an illegal practice, but it's not. What do they do to force you to go to the dealer? For anybody who doesn't know, let me give you a couple of ways that they do it. So as far as parts go, Volvo and Freightliner and Carrier and Thermo King all use alternators. None of them make alternators. There's lots of companies that make alternators, but let's pretend that there's only one company, Acme. So what do all of these companies do to force you to come to them to buy the alternator instead of just buying the Acme alternator that you can get for $100 at any automotive store? Well, they reach out to Acme and they sign a contract with them and they say, we want you to make a special proprietary version of the part just for us, and we want you to change some things on it. We want you to change the bolt pattern, or we want you to change the connector or something to make it to where it'll only, this is the only alternator that will work on our product. And in the contract, it states you cannot sell this part to anyone except us. So that makes it to where you have to go to the dealer for parts. That's how they force you to buy parts from them. What about service? There's lots of ways they force you to come to them for service. One way is by locking you out of the controls. So, Volvo Freightliner, if you want to change the governed speed of the truck, you don't have access to do that. Only the dealer does. Why do you not have access to change a setting on something that you own? Why does the person that sold it to you, why are they the only ones that can change settings on something that you supposedly own? Why do you have to go to them and pay them to change settings? It should be illegal. Also, they program the computer to where, um, Like if you replace a part, you have to go into the computer and like reset that part before it will function. So if you go to a shop and tell them, yeah, go ahead and replace this part, they might tell you, yeah, we can replace the part, but it won't work until you go to the dealer. They have to do something in the computer to make it work after it's replaced. Also, another way they force you to go to them for service is by hiding information. They intentionally withhold wiring diagrams, schematics, and information required to diagnose and troubleshoot issues, information required to have a basic understanding of how things are hooked up and how things function. That information is only available to their shops, their mechanics. So you have to go to them to get that stuff done. That's not a good sign. That rest area is completely packed. I hope the rest area I'm planning on stopping at is not completely packed like that. I can see the sheriff's lights way up ahead. I can't tell if they're stopped or still moving though. So anyway, I could go on about the shady business practices, but it is not restricted to Carrier and Thermo King. It is common practice across many industries. The parts and service industry is incredibly scummy. It's just it should be regulated and it's not. It's not properly regulated by the government. It is a predatory business practice. But anyway, Green APU was created partially because of that predatory business practice. Supposedly, the person who created Green APU was a driver that did not like the design of Carrier and Thermo King and did not like all the proprietary parts and the service costs and the ridiculousness of it, this whole scam. So they started building their own APU. And they eventually turned it into a company where they build APUs for other people. Now, Green APU may have been created with the best of intention, but in my opinion, it's turned into what it hates. They've gotten greedy. Carrier, Green APUs are now more expensive than Carriers, and they're still using the horrible design of Carrier and Thermo King. Green APU is nearly identical to Carrier and Thermo King. The only difference is that Green APU uses off-the-shelf parts, standard versions of parts, instead of proprietary versions. Aside from that, Green APU is identical to Carrier and Thermo King. So what happens if the APU engine breaks down with Green APU? What do you have to do? You have to take it to a mechanic and pay hundreds of dollars. My average cost to get the APU worked on is about $800. That's about the average that I spend every time I put the APU in the shop. That's insane. And it's because of the poor design. What is so bad about the design? What is so bad about the design is that they are using a $6,000 engine. And they are using an HVAC system that is like, I think, I can't remember how much they charge for that thing. It's like a $2,000 or $3,000 HVAC system. It's extremely overpriced crap. So let me put it this way. If you have a $6,000 engine and something breaks on it, are you going to pay somebody to fix it or are you going to replace it? You are going to pay somebody to fix it. What if instead of $6,000, what if that engine cost $800? You could buy a brand new engine for $800 and you could install it yourself in like 10 minutes. You could swap out the engines in 10 minutes yourself, and the whole engine costs $800, and the average amount of money that you spend for a mechanic to work on it is $800. What would you do if that engine broke down? Would you replace it or would you pay a mechanic to work on it? You'd replace it, and you would get a brand new engine. You wouldn't be like duct taping an old engine that's just going to slowly keep degrading over time and break down more and more and more. So how are these two things comparable? Well, let's think about this for a second. What does the Kubota engine do? What is the Kubota's engine on the APU? What is its sole purpose? To generate power. How much power does the Kubota engine on the Carrier APU produce? It produces 700 watts through the alternator to charge the batteries, and it produces 2,000 watts through the generator to run the HVAC system. So 2,700 total watts. $6,000 engine to produce 2,700 watts of power. That's all it does, is produce 2,700 watts of power. $6,000. So if I tasked you with going and finding something that could produce 2,700 watts of power, go find me an engine that can produce 2,700 watts of power. Could you do that? How much would that engine cost? You can go buy a generator that produces 2,700 watts of power for a couple $100. Why in the hell are we putting $6,000 engines on the sides of our truck that weigh 300, 400 pounds to produce 2,700 watts of power? It is an old design. Engines have become more efficient. Engines have gotten better. There's been huge improvements in power creation by generators over the years. Now you can buy a 5,000 watt generator, a 5,000 watt diesel generator. You can buy one for a few $100s. You can probably get one as cheap as $200, but $800, you should be able to easily get a 5,000 watt diesel generator for $800. That produces almost twice as much power as the $6,000 Kubota engine. And they might be even more expensive than that now. Kubota was selling those engines for $6,000 last time I checked. So why in the hell are these APU manufacturers still using this outdated design? I don't know, in all honesty. I think it's just because people are stupid enough to buy them, and they're making a ton of money off of them and a ton of money on parts and service. All All right, we're about to go over a mountain. What is the name of this mountain? There was some truck driver at the Flying J in Ontario, Oregon, that told me the name of this mountain. The what they call this mountain pass, and I can't remember what they called it. I thought he was special because I talked about that in a previous video. He's talking with some of these truck drivers is really awkward because I don't think that they talk to people very much, and a lot of these truck drivers out here are extremely socially awkward. Sorry, I'm just sitting here trying to remember. I can't remember the name of this damn mountain pass. Maybe I'll see a sign and I'll be like, oh, that's it. That's what they call it. But yeah, I maybe, I'm not an expert. I am not an expert. So maybe there is a valid reason. Maybe there's a really good reason why these APUs are still being designed with insanely expensive engines that don't seem to make any sense to me. And, if you know a valid reason why, educate me. I love learning about stuff. So let's move on to my homemade APU. Now, is my homemade APU one of these homemade APUs you see in all the trucker videos? Somebody went out and bought some $50 500-watt generator and duct taped it to their catwalk and ran an extension cord into the truck, and they've got some portable air conditioner sitting in the floorboard with a vent running out the window, or better yet, the ones that have a window unit air conditioner hanging out their window. Is that my homemade APU solution? Is it another one of those? No, no. Those things are ridiculous. They're stupid. They're a waste of time and money. And like, you would think that it's somebody doing satire, but they're serious. Like they're actually building that crap and seeing if it works. They're like, this is my homemade APU solution. It works okay. All right. So what there are three main components that I need for a homemade APU. There are additional things that I'd like to have, but there are three must-have things. Number one is the generator. It produces the power. And like I just mentioned, you can find a 5,000-watt generator for about 800 bucks. You can get them cheaper. You can get them, sky's the limit on how expensive they get, but you can definitely get them cheaper than that too. But I think you can get a decent one for 800 bucks. What else do you need? Well, a generator produces AC power. Alternators produce DC power. Well, I don't want to run an alternator. I have plenty of AC power. I have 100,000 watts of AC power being produced. Is there some way that I can convert it to DC? Yes, there is. There is a AC to DC converter that you can buy from PowerMax for $200. 100 amp, 1440 watts. What else do you need? That's two parts. There's one more part that you need. An air conditioner. I mean, if all you want is something to charge your batteries, then those are the only two parts you need. I want an air conditioner. So that's the third part that I need is an air conditioner. What type of air conditioner do you need? Well, the main hurdle with an air conditioner in the truck is just space. Where can you install it? You need a way to vent the heat out. And the best way to do that is with a split unit. You have an evaporator and then you have a condenser. I can't remember which is which. I think the condenser is the one that creates cold air and the evaporator is the one that creates hot air. So you put the one that creates hot air outside, and then there's a hose that runs inside to the one that creates cold air, and bam, that's the split unit. That's the design that they use for Carrier, Thermo King, Green APU. They use split units. You have the big evaporator blower mounted on the back of the truck, and then you have the condenser unit installed inside the truck. So that's probably the type of air conditioner I'm going to go with. And the price range of those units are all over the place. I might have to spend $2,000 for one. I might be able to get one for $400. I haven't done a ton of research on them. We'll just say $800. I know that you can buy an RV air conditioner and heater combo that for around two grand. But we'll go with $800 for now. And that's all you really need. And just think about how simplistic that is. An electric cable from the generator to the air conditioner, and an electric cable from the generator to the AC to DC converter, and then you have the power cables running from the AC to DC converter to the batteries. That's it. Bam, you're done. Well, you'd have a fuel line running from your fuel tank to the generator as well. Otherwise, you'd be out there putting fuel in it every day. Just think about how simplistic that is and compare that to the design of Carrier, Thermo King, and Green APU. And I'm not sure if I already talked about this, but you know the $6,000 engine, if it breaks down, do you replace it or repair it? You repair it because of how expensive it is. The $800 generator engine, you replace it if it breaks down because of how expensive it is. It's not worth paying somebody to work on it. Even if you have to replace that generator every year, it's still cheaper than the maintenance and repairs on a Carrier, Thermo King, or Green APU. And modern generators, this is another part of the design problem, is what do the Carrier, Thermo King, and Green APU generators sound like? They sound like a lawnmower. They're loud. Just a second here. I think this guy just pulled over to the chain area. So yeah, the cheaper components completely changes the entire philosophy on maintenance and repairs. You swap out, you just buy a replacement component, and you can swap out the entire generator in probably less than 10 minutes. There aren't any complex connections to it. There's not, it's not a big pain in the butt. It's going to be lighter. The Kubota engine weighs like 400 pounds, 350 to 400 pounds. If you buy a 5,000 watt generator, is it going to weigh 350 to 400 pounds? Absolutely not. It might weigh 50 to 100 pounds at most. Probably less than that. But modern generators are really, really quiet. That's something that's changed recently. But Carrier, Thermo King, Green APU, they're still using Kubota engines that are extremely loud that sound like you're running a lawnmower. So with how quiet modern generators are, and you can still buy generators that are loud, not all of them are quiet, but quiet ones are available. If you buy one of the modern quiet generators, that alone is just going to be quiet. But then on top of that, what you can do is I plan on having the shop build a box for me. The shop that I do all my work with, the head mechanic Bill is like an expert welder. They fabricate tons of metal stuff, headache racks and all kinds of things for tractors and trailers. That's one of the main things that they do there is metal fabrication. Well, I don't know if you call it fabrication. They just weld and cut metal and create things, boxes and shit out of them. But anyway, I would have him make me a custom box to hold the generator and the AC to DC converter. And make it to where it's super easy to access everything. And line the interior of it with some type of noise dampening material. So the generator's going to already be really quiet. And then I put it in that box that's lined with noise dampening material, and that'll make it just even quieter. You'll barely even you won't be able to hear the generator inside the truck most likely, and even outside the truck standing next to it, you'll probably barely be able to hear it. And that's huge, because there are places that we go where they tell us we can't run our engines. There are places that we park at, maybe you're parked in a residential area, or, you're delivering to a business that's, right next to a whole bunch of houses, and you don't want to be running your main engine or your generator because, like, you're parked right next to a whole bunch of houses and they're trying to sleep and do stuff. They'll be calling the cops on you for noise ordinance. With this generator, you could run it anywhere and no one would even know it's running. Now, I haven't actually made it, so I don't know exactly how quiet it's going to be, but based off of, what I know and the design I'm thinking of, that is, that's what I'm thinking it's going to be like. And I am really just excited about the possibilities. This thing is going to be way better than the Carrier APU that I currently have. It's going to put out twice as much power. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about the power. Let's talk about the battery charging. For anybody who doesn't know, like, how much power is this or that or anything, let me explain a few things. The main engine alternator puts out about 1400 to 1500 watts. The APU alternator on all of the APUs, Green, Carrier, Thermo King, they all use almost identical alternators. They all put out about 700 watts. 700 watts is not a lot of power. It's enough to run low wattage appliances inside the truck, but I like to use my laptop, and my laptop uses 250 to 300 watts, somewhere in that area, all by its lonesome whenever I'm running that thing. And then I also like to run a second monitor. I'll turn on my little TV in here. That uses power. And sometimes I'll run my Xbox, and that uses power. And it gets to the point where I'm using like 1,000 watts of power. And the APU is only outputting 700 watts. So it's running at a deficiency. Like, even if the APU is running constantly, the batteries are discharging more than the APU is charging. So there will be points where I will have to run the main engine to charge the batteries, and the APU is just running constantly 24 hours a day to keep up with charging the batteries because of how little power it outputs. Well, with this new generator, it's going to be putting out as much power as the main engine, 1400 to 1500 watts. That means that it's going to be able to keep the batteries fully charged, and it's not going to have to run constantly. So I'm going to use a lot less fuel. Instead of the APU running 24 hours a day, the APU may only run for 8 to 12 hours a day, half the run time. That's a lot of fuel savings. So, yeah, as far as, like, if you look at the APU at its core, what function does it provide? The, the APU, the generator, the APU engine does one thing and one thing only, and it produces power. And you can go out and get an $800 generator that will produce twice as much power as this $6,000 Kubota engine. It does not make sense to me the way that they design the Carrier, Thermo King, and Green APU. But maybe I'll run into some hurdle that will make it make sense to me as to why they do things the way that they do. But anyway, I don't want the video to be too terribly long. We're at like, what, 41 minutes? I can barely see the timer. Let's wrap it up there. I'm going to keep researching the APU, and I'm just really excited at the possibility of building my own APU that's going to work exactly the way I want it to. Oh, the last thing I forgot to mention. Now, there are three required things. There's the generator, the AC to DC converter, and then the air conditioner. There's a fourth thing that I really, really, really want, and that is battery monitoring. That is for the thing to come on whenever the batteries get low and run for like 2 hours, then shut off. How do you achieve that? Well, a control panel is how you achieve that. You can buy programmable control panels for like 50 bucks and program them to do things like that. I'm still trying to find one that has the feature set that I want. I think I found one for $65. It's really, it has a ridiculous amount of features, tons of things that it does. It will turn on the APU if the voltage gets below a certain threshold that you can program in. But I haven't figured out for sure that I can set a max runtime on it. If I can verify that you can program in a max runtime, then I'll go ahead and buy that one because it does what I want it to do. But it's I'm just gonna have to keep researching it and find a control panel that does that. And then I have the battery monitor feature. It cost me $65 or $50, whichever control panel I end up going with. So that entire homemade APU system, it's probably going to cost me somewhere around $2,500. A large chunk of that is going to be the custom. I'm expecting it's going to cost me about 500 bucks to have that custom box made and installed to put the generator and the AC to DC converter in. But that's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm going to work on. So maybe I'll make some more videos in the near future. And maybe one of them will be the load board video that somebody's requesting. So anyway, hope you're having a good one. And I think I'm about to hit the point of this mountain. We're getting near Pendleton, Oregon, and Pendleton is down at the bottom of this mountain. There's like a 5-mile, 6% grade that we're going to go down and go down to the bottom of this mountain. I think we're about to start that grade. So anyway, hope you're having a good one. Bye.